Hello, 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 everyone. How's it going? My name's Colton Marvelius, or as the internet calls me, Ill-Fitting Trousers. And today we're gonna do another episode of the Weekly Rundown. However, we had some technical difficulties. My audio messed up. So, Brennan is gonna be taking it away with an edited version of his audio. It seemed to flow pretty well. I edited it so it will flow correctly. Um, and I really think he carried this episode with his musical knowledge and everything. And it would be a shame for it not to get out. So without further ado, here is Mr. Brennan Howard with video game music. If the topics don't flow, that's on me. But yeah. Have a great episode. I'll see you back for the news.
Well, a lot of things you said about there is kind of what I feel about the music in Zelda, by the brilliant Koji Kondo. You said you listen to Persona driving, and that's my main CD to listen to while I drive is the Zelda 25th anniversary orchestral suite that I got with Skyward Sword when it came out. It's just a medley, it's a suite that's got a bunch of different songs from a bunch of different games in there, but it's all orchestral, like real orchestral, not even digital. And it's my favorite part about it is it's all these Zelda tracks composed in such a way that it's almost an opera of its own. Like it has a total flow throughout the whole album that it really tells a story. I've listened to it countless times, and every time, there's something different I get from it, something different I feel. Like a lot of times while you're driving, especially, I could just like imagine like a movie or something playing in my head through each song, that it just flows with that progression so well. It kind of flows with the Star Wars, the hero's journey very well, and how it has the instigating moment, and then up to a climax and a fall, and all that stuff. And that just really amazed me. Honestly, it's kind of a religious experience. I highly recommend the 25th anniversary. 30th anniversary is good too, but I don't feel it flows as well as the 25th. But it still kind of flows, and it's still really good. Well, what I also want to mention about the Zelda music is, obviously it's this nice orchestral music, and it's so thematic and grand and epic and just operatic, really. And it's got leitmotifs and themes and stuff in there. But you look at Breath of the Wild, and that music is almost completely different. Like, they still have hints of like the old Zelda tracks in there, but it's such a faint whisper on the wind, and which is perfect for the game because it's kind of more of a post-apocalyptic. So like and the whole theme of that game is remembering things. So it really adds to the whole character of the world in Breath of the Wild, that the music is there, giving little hints of the past too. Like when you're going through Hyrule Fields, it's just such a faint dun, dun, da, 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 the main Zelda theme. But it's so faint, and it's just faint enough to give you that feeling like, oh, I remember you. And I love the Breath of the Wild soundtrack. It took a while to grow on me, because when I first got it, I was expecting traditional Zelda fanfare, but I got this like faint piano-y jazz going on, and I was like, what is this? But it really illustrates the broken world, and also is kind of the voice of nature, which is a big character in that game too. And there's a part where, remember when you climb the mountain and there's the I think it's Hebra Mountain, a snowy mountain, and there's a situation on the top of it, just in case anyone out there hasn't played Breath of the Wild. Dude, it's so good going into that, spoiler free. But there's a situation on top. But a subtle thing that I never noticed, I saw it in a YouTube video that they talked about it. When you're at the top, like when you're going through it, it's all blizzardy, and the music is like really like kind of filtered, I guess. It like you don't hear a lot of low end sounds and high end sounds, so it's just sort of kind of stale throughout. You get to the top and there's a certain time of day where it happens, where the blizzard clears, and as it does that, the music clears too, and you could hear all the low and high end frequencies and all the intricacies in there. So it just goes so hand in hand with nature in that game and the atmosphere that even the music clears up when the sky does. And I found that out and my mind was blown. I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever heard anything like that in a video game. A good soundtrack has to make you feel something specific. And like sometimes you want people to feel anxious and annoyed and haunted too. Like a repetitive song like that, that's definitely haunting. But know your freaking audience. Don't put that in Pokemon. Put it in a horror game. You gotta level it off. You know, if your game is for kids, you gotta be a little gentler sometimes. I mean, yeah, that's the thing though. I always felt like it's kind of stupid, like how people talk to their little kids. They're like, they do the baby talk and stuff, and they don't give kids the credit for being as intelligent as they are. Like that's when we learn languages and stuff. So it always seemed offensive. Like you get like a baby toy that does music, and the music is always in a major key, twinkle twinkle little star, really simple stupid crap, when in reality, dude, a kid can handle Beethoven and Mozart fine. They can handle dissonance and minor keys. It's not gonna mess them up because they're intelligent, and music is a language, and I think it's very important to kind of go full force with the music for your kids. Like I know I have a friend who's got a kid, and they listen to like metal and grunge around him, and he's like perfectly fine, dude. He's just a normal happy kid, but he likes grunge and metal. Well, not to get too off track, but like it seems like society today has like a big problem, especially in America, with like avoiding emotion. So we stick with the happy pop songs and stay away from minor keys, you know, but it's just not healthy. You gotta embrace all that feeling. Yeah, because it's the easy emotion. And it sells. But it's just a whole cultural mentality of avoiding sadness, you know? You feel like, oh, sad, bad. Don't you feel sad? It's like how guys aren't allowed to cry or whatever. They can only be angry. That's like the only emotion guys are allowed to do, is angry. It's stupid. Anyway, video games. Well, I got some games in here that I like when they do it. Like, for one, Red Dead Redemption, the original. The composer for that was a fellow named Jeffrey Whicher. But honestly, the music was fine. I don't really remember most of the music, but I do remember the part where you go to Mexico for the first time, and it plays this song by Jose Gonzalez, and it's like real like mournful and stuff. and you're riding into Mexico, and the sun is hitting the mesas and stuff, and it's just freaking beautiful. And it's like a turning point in the game too. I don't really remember the plot, but I remember it was kind of a transition point, and I thought that worked really well and introduced me to a cool new song I never heard before. And I just have a fond memory of that moment. I love how music makes moments in games. That feeling and experience that, and we're talking about immersion here. I would want to mention Minecraft. That's the artist C419. Yeah, right? C418. But that music's cool. We've all heard it, you know. But the cool thing is how it blends into the game. Is it's always random, right? There's usually a song when the sun rises. What? No, I think it's like every time the sun rises and sets, that's when you get the music. But you're always doing different stuff, and each track is different. So that creates a special moment every time. You know, it's not going to be the same. It's like, oh yeah, here comes the song. It's like, oh, night comes, so okay, I'll just do mining throughout the night because I don't have a bed yet. So I'm mining, going to cave adventure. It's freaking terrifying, and you hear those ambient noises in the caves, the whoosh and whatnot, and you're just having a bad time. Speaking of horror in non-horror video games, though, you could argue Minecraft is a horror game. But then eventually you come out of the cave on the other side of the mountain or whatever at sunrise, and the music's playing, and it's pretty and everything, and you're just like, oh, I made it through the valley of the shadow of the bad boys, or whatever the Bible verse is. And it's cool because it's always going to be something different for when you hit that music, and that music's going to hit differently too. Like one music that might be kind of a sadder kind of song, played at a certain time, like coming out of the cave, is going to be a really peaceful and relieving song too. So I love how they do that in Minecraft, and that music's honestly pretty freaking cool. I love when they give characters what's known as a leitmotif, which is basically their theme. It was kind of the term, at least, was invented around for Wagner's The Ring Cycle, which is the opera that Lord of the Rings is pretty much based off. It's the one with the fat lady singing "Kill the Wabbit." But like, you kind of made me think of how Star Wars has leitmotifs for characters, like Darth Vader, which is also Imperial. Like, the leitmotifs in that are honestly pretty loose, but in these newer Star Wars movies and games, like, sometimes you can hear a hint of the leitmotif, and you kind of like, oh, I know who they're gonna reveal now. You know, you hear a song that you remember from the older characters, and you're like, what? No, this guy's not coming back. What? I love how these new Star Wars games are really building up the horror of Vader, you know? Like, obviously he's the big bad guy, but his presence really wasn't as terrifying as it is now with the games and movies they're making, where you see Vader and you're like, oh shit, you know? But you do get connected to him throughout those movies, you know? So it feels like you know Vader, but for me, like, I kind of forgot about the whole, oh my gosh, he's scary part, you know? But then you see, like, Rogue One and other games, which I won't mention for spoilers, where Vader shows up, and they just make it so menacing, and you're like, oh crap, you're done for. You can't beat him unless you're Luke, and usually you're not Luke. Anyway, back to games again. You were talking about like the Triumph themes, and that made me think of my precious little baby Halo. Audio director Martin O'Donnell, who coined the term audio director, by the way. He composes pretty much most of the songs, but like in later instances, there's like I think there's like a song by Creed in there that they wrote for the game. So he goes by audio director because he's doing all of the audio too. He's not just sitting around composing. So he wanted to go by audio director. So I will call him audio director. Anyway, one of my favorite Triumph themes in that game is, just the main Halo theme and the whole human marine theme. Just kind of fills you like, yeah, humans did it. We beat the fight or whatever. And what's so cool about the music in Halo is obviously every track is really good. But they're so rare. Most of the game, while you're playing it, is quiet. There's no music. So that the music just doesn't drown out the whole immersion and everything. But it's there when it needs to be there. It's there in the moments when you're being the badass Master Chief. You've got a tank or a rocket launcher or whatever, and you're, where it's built to be super easy and empowering, not so much a challenge when on the tank levels, but it just feels so good to get in that tank and they play the cool music. Or there's a tank level in Halo 2 where they don't play the intense music. They just play kind of a cool background kind of music that's just nice to listen to. It's hoppy, it's positive, but it's kind of inquisitive because you're really more exploring this new Halo ring than you are being a badass and mowing down Covenant. And I thought that was a cool break too, and that's like one of my favorite tracks from Halo 2, one of them. And then of course there's very intense moments where you don't feel so powerful, and it just has kind of a droning, really a horror track, and it's like dun 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 dun, and it just keeps going and going throughout the level, and you're terrified because usually you're like, oh, I'm Master Chief, I get the game now. I'm pretty freaking powerful, and then there's usually a moment where it's a lot harder and you kind of lose that power for a second and you're like, oh crap. And then of course eventually you get the power back at a certain point or whatever, and music adapts to that too. You get the theme, da, 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 and that feels really good. It feels like coming out of the cave of Minecraft, So yeah, it's the Triumph theme. It's not saying that the fight's over, but it's saying that, well, okay, I'm a badass again. The struggle's over. Some games that have that Triumph theme will play it with a twist. You defeat the encounter or whatever, and you go da 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 or something, or just some little cue to make you feel uneasy. Like, wait a minute. Like, there's like no visual cue or anything else other than the music telling you that, wait a minute, something's wrong. A minor moment in Halo where they use some adaptive music in there too, where it's playing the theme. You're doing a scene with the Warthog, which is the Jeep, and you're driving and it's badass and cool, and there's a jump you're gonna make, and it's like, oh, Cortana's like, yeah, you can make that jump, and you're doing it. It's like da 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 da, and then it goes, and then it does like a fall off kind of cue, like where you don't make the jump, but he did it in such a good way that it blends into the track that's playing overall. That does loop, but seamlessly. So it feels like you hit that part in the song at just the right time, when in reality that part in the song is gonna happen whenever you get to that point in the level, right? Because everybody speaks music. Some people speak it a lot better, but everybody gets it. So to have that in your game is super important to make that connection with the player. Of course, if you're going for immersion, if not, sometimes some games just have just a good background for just kind of zoning out and relaxing, and that's perfect too. Like Civilization music, it's good, and it's composed in such a way that it kind of helps you focus and think better, because it's like a strategy game. So speaking of nostalgic title music, obviously that's going to be the Halo for me. The Friday nights was when we'd play Halo together, me and my family, and his mom had a night shift work at the hospital, so it's okay to play some shooters. And I just remember waiting for everybody to get ready, just sitting on the title screen playing that epic good stuff, and just dancing to that music. Really, I loved it. And I got that feeling again when I downloaded MCC in August this year, and I'm like, oh, I remember you. And then of course I gotta shout out Christopher Tin, the composer for the title screen songs for Civilization, which was Baba Yetu for Civ 4, I think. And I don't play Civ, but I really like that music. And Sogno di Voler for Civ 6, I believe. And my brother showed me these songs. He's really into Civ, and I was blown away. Baba Yetu translates to Our Father in Swahili, and it's basically a song made from the Lord's Prayer. And it's just beautiful and inspirational, and you just feel the joy. And of course it's played over like images of civilizations being built or whatever. But I really admire what he did with that. And then of course Sogno di Voler, The Dream of Flight, which is Italian for Civ 6, is incredibly inspirational. Holy crap. Yeah, people were petitioning to have it be the theme song of the UN, and I think it is. They use it in the UN for like presentations and stuff. They throw it in there, and it just makes you feel so proud to be a human. And it's because that's really what it's about, the dream of flight. He's got an album called To Shiver the Sky, Christopher Tin, To Shiver the Sky. Look it up, listen to it, it's beautiful. And it's all about kind of man's the human race's desire to fly, and the progression therefore like starts with like Icarus and stuff, and then it ends up in the moon landing. And each song in that, it starts off with Sogno di Voler, just really builds it up, and it's kind of operatic. And then every other song is in a different language with a different singer singing about different parts in history that are leading up to basically space travel. And holy crap, it's just such a beautiful thing to listen to. And he's actually the only celebrity I've ever been able to get a reply from with fan mail. Keep that one alive. But then there's there's other games. Well, I'd say a quick thing about Elder Scrolls Skyrim. I don't know what it is about that music that I like. It's good, but it doesn't feel very immersive, really. Yeah, well, like, I guess the songs are just good on their own, and they're good in the background, But I just feel weird, especially with like the battle music whenever there's an enemy, because it's always the same in basically every game. Dun 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 dun, or whatever it is. It just repeats every time there's a conflict, and that just feels so stale. But then you have like the more ambient music while you're just walking around in the woods, and that's really beautiful. But in a way that you notice the music, so I wouldn't say it's super immersive. But this is all composed by Jeremy Soule, and I think the music is beautiful, and I'll listen to it on its own. But for some reason, it's just kind of weird in game. He's just walking around stealing cheese and pickpocketing in heavy armor, going dun 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 dun. I like that idea. But yeah, because they're going for a realism immersion as opposed to a cinematic immersion or something. So it definitely would be a lot harder to get the music to fit. But I think like when you go into the tavern and it's got like harp music playing, I think that's pretty good, because that's kind of something you'd hear in a tavern. There'd be a bard. Of course, they have the bards in that, which I don't like listening to them. But I like the option is you can request a song, and one of the options is, can you please stop? You take a break. And then there's games like The Witcher 3. Everybody loves that music. Okay, here's the composers for that. I'm going to try it. Marcin Przbalowicz and Mikołaj Struński. I think it's Polish. But that music was cool because it was so The Witcher 3, because they take like Polish folk music and make it fantasy, you know. So it's not like super Polish folk music or whatever, but it's really got that grounding, just like the games do, because they're more of a dark fantasy thing, you know. So like it's a lot of Polish lore and creatures and stuff, but it's also fantasy. Yeah, it's kind of grounded in reality, but also fantasy, you know. So in game, it's not Poland. What else we got? That's The Witcher. Oh yeah, and that music's great because everybody puts the Witcher soundtrack on for when they're playing D&D. It's just perfect fantasy music, and it's epic. I have on my list here, I want to mention Undertale. I haven't played it, but it's by Toby Fox, and obviously everybody's heard Megalovania. That song slaps, and I think it's so cool because like it's one of those, like, I think it's 8-bit, that retro style, and the music is using retro sounds too. But it's cool because they don't have to loop it like Pokemon. Yeah, it's all Toby Fox. He made it and composed it and everything. But they don't have to loop it in that because it's played on modern devices with better storage and everything. So you get a full song using those retro sounds, unlike the old Pokemon where it has those songs that just loop, like what'd you say, like a 6 second loop, whereas in Undertale it's a lot more deliberate, and you can really just, he really just goes all out with that music, and I think it's freaking phenomenal. And other thing I have on my list is I wanted to mention how cool it was that Left 4 Dead uses music in game to as a mechanic, because each special zombie has a theme, and you hear it and you're like, oh, okay, that zombie's coming, watch out. That was composed by a feller named Mike Murawski, But yeah, the special zombies in there, you'd hear a little audio cue basically, and you'd know to watch out. So that was cool, yeah. And then of course, I wanted to mention how you were talking about, what was it? Was it The Last of Us, where she plays the guitar, and how some games it's just a cutscene, but some games it's actually a mechanic. Like you have Sea of Thieves, where you hold down the click button and you play the banjo, and then on the next level you have Zelda, where you actually play the ocarina or the harp or whatever. There's always an instrument, except for there wasn't really an instrument in Breath of the Wild, was there? That's weird. Doesn't feel right. I've spoken my piece. I've talked about basically everything. Oh, I guess I should give a shout out to Jet Set Radio Future, one of my childhood favorites. Rollerblading game, really cool. Hideki Naganuma was the audio director for that, and that had a whole bunch of these weird techno punk songs that you never would have heard of, and I remember them very well, and it would straight slapped, and it was really fun rollerblading around with that cool music. News!
Upcoming video game releases. Starting off with September 14th, today, Deathloop comes out for PC and PS5. Honey, I Joined a Cult comes out for PC. And Where the Heart Leads, US retail, is coming out for the PS4. Age of Darkness, Final Stand starts off our September 15th list, as well as Fire Commander for the PC as well. Mercs Market comes out for PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Stadia. Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town comes out for PC. Timberborn comes out for PC. Titan Chaser comes out for PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, and Xbox One. Starting off with September 16th, The Amazing American Circus comes out for PC, PS4, Xbox, and the Switch. Clash of Chefs VR comes out on PC VR. Eastward comes out for the PC and the Switch. Game Deck comes out for the PC. Skatebird, PC, Xbox One, and the Switch. Valheim Heart and Home Update is also coming to the PC. Starting off with September 17th, Origami 2 for the PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, and Xbox One. Examon comes out for the PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch. Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom Prince Edition comes out for the Switch. Tales of Iron, PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch. Skipping to September 21st, Kenna Bridge of Spirits comes to PC, PS5, and PS4. Sheltered 2, PC, September 21st as well. World War Z Aftermath, September 21st as well. PC, PS4, Xbox One. And that is everything coming out in the next week. I know I'm very excited about Deathloop and Kenna Bridge of Spirits myself. I very much play on my PS5. But it is a good week for PC gaming. I can see that now. So yeah, let us know in the comments what you're excited for, what you want to see, all of that. Big news coming up since the PlayStation Showcase got announced. They announced, they revealed God of War. They showed off Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, and a remake for Knights of the Old Republic Remastered. It's not a remake, it's a remaster. I just messed up there. Very exciting stuff. There's also an Alan Wake remake in the works right now as we speak. I know a lot of people really love that series. Very excited to see. And Brennan wanted to give me a shout out because we missed it last week. But Halo got a full release date, and it is December 8th. Very exciting. So we will see you December 8th playing some Halo. And let us know what you guys heard this week as well. Just our quick news recaps. I'm still, trying to get the flow of it going. But again, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed what Brennan had to say. I know I did. I know this episode is also going to be quite a bit shorter, because we lost that audio. But thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast. It really does mean a lot to us. And hopefully we'll have a less hiccups in the future. So thank you so much.